I guess we're back. Double AR, Amon Ashreну. So, this is part two. Part one was interrupted, as we see. I just want to make it be known, as we see, the streams are interrupted when things are spoken that maybe shouldn't be spoken. So just want to let it be known. Man, there's a lot of risks being taken. But without courage, what are you, right? So if this gets interrupted again, I'm not coming back, all right? So if this stops again, I'm like, all right, they just don't want this shit out, whatever. I'll just put it out on the website, right? Because I don't have to play by the rules. You don't want it out? That's what I got the website for. So if this is interrupted again, I'm just going to reveal as much as I can, right? Anyway, let's get back to it. Where we left off, I was speaking about how influential the drums and the voodoo culture was, and the basis of all black magic comes from the fear of those drums. The fear of those drums, which now we know to be hip hop. Why is hip hop so demonic? Why is this the culture that now dominates the world? Well, when we connect the two, the drums of voodoo connecting you to the world of Alazuth, which is the fire world, the world of desire. We now have that same energy coming through the music, the same energy that was played in the dark. And if we study the origins of hip hop manifested the same exact way in the dark. This time on the East Coast, New York, the whole East Coast. They have the same origins because it's the same culture. It goes to sleep and it wakes up again. It goes to sleep, it wakes up. It goes to sleep, it wakes up. The cycles of the universe. These are called the great ages. The universe is always balanced. So there will always be those of us who know, those of us who preserve the knowledge, pass down the knowledge. We will always be in existence because the universe is balanced. It will never be unbalanced in that way. It's never going to be mainstream. It's never going to be the majority of people because you actually have to put in work. This isn't something that you join, you pay your dues, and you're fine. Your rank is determined by your work. So you have to have work ethic because things are always changing and evolving. So if you stop studying, let's just say 5 years ago, just imagine how much information has been missed if a person stopped studying 5 years ago. Let's just say new age information. Let's just say you stopped studying it 5 years ago and you have missed everything that has been revealed in the last 5 years. That's just how fast information is traveling and how necessary it is for us to keep up with everything that is revealed based off of the cycles. Every day, a new energy is waking up, and those who are aware can tap into these rising energies because the devices are already in the earth. Remember, either we come from monkeys or we come from those who knew everything. It's one or the other. Believe whichever path you want. But if you are the one who believes we have always been here, there has never not been a point where we were not here, even before the earth itself was created, that means we designed it ourselves. So we specifically place devices that cannot be seen, not understood, will never be found. Only the ones who created it know what they do, how they work. So all the people who's trying to understand everything on the surface level, they have no idea what's going on beneath the surface because they have never discovered it and they never will, because it's not places that you can get to with the physical shell. If you try to dig to the center of the earth, you will probably die before you get there. It's not an act that you can endure physically. However, if you generate a double, because we do that, right? If you generate a double, if you generate a more etheric form of yourself that can go through matter or walk through physical objects or atoms, then it probably won't take that long, right? This is science. Certain actions require certain levels of energy. Certain actions can only be solved, not certain actions. Certain things can only be accomplished in your dreams. Certain things can only be accomplished when you are in meditation. Certain things can only be accomplished when you are in your awakened state. Remember, we are always rotating between these three minds. We have to deal with them on different planes. So if you have no idea what's going on in a dream, or you have no idea what's going on in meditation or your subconscious mind, if you're only aware of what's going on the surface level, you have one out of three levels of understanding. Imagine that. Most people have one of three. They only are aware of the conscious functions, not aware of the sub and the unconscious. People who are spiritual have two of the three. So anybody who's woke or conscious, they have two out of three. That third degree is when you descend to the depths that are called the halls of Amenti, and you crown yourself in the darkness. That's the third degree. That's the degree that no one, not no one, 1%, less than 1% will accomplish, because you actually need courage. This is not something fun. You are not spiritual trying to alleviate pain. You are digging deeper into the mysteries of reality. You are here. You understand that the earth is a school to learn, so you are hungry, and you have a great hunger for knowledge, because you understand this is why we're here. We're here to gain knowledge. We're not here to pretend like this is the final level, this is the final. So people try to live their entire life as if this is the last level. That's your thinking. If you think this is the last level and this is all I'm going to ever do in my complete existence, but that's religion. Religion tells you that you just arrived here, right? Even though we say, it's real weird. It's real weird how you can go to heaven or hell, but how is that fucking possible? Unless this is your only life. See, it's coming to me now. It's coming to me now. There's just certain things just come to me as I speak. Okay. Let me phrase it this way. If we go to heaven or hell, that means we couldn't have existed before this. Because you will already be in heaven or hell, right? We will already be there. You will already have been judged if you lived before. There is nothing said about resurrection other than Jesus, right? Like, oh, Jesus resurrected, but it don't say the average person does, right? So, religion puts you in a box, basically, that this is your only life, and based on this one life, you go to heaven or hell, and that's where you spend the rest of everything, right? So according to that thinking, that's how people live their life. I'm going to be judged. My whole entire soul is going to be judged off of these 100 years. My whole soul, that's eternal, that's forever. I'm going to spend forever in hell based off 100 fucking years. But that's what people believe. 100 years of forever. So you're going to spend forever in darkness or light based on what you do in 100 years? And time is infinite. There is no such thing as time. You see, once we advance and get deeper, that shit starts to crumble. It makes no sense. And if it does make sense, then your reality will reflect your sense. We make reality what we want it to be. So people who think like that, they live like that. And people who live that way, die that way. You think it, you live it, and you die it. You die it. That's crazy. It's like a double entendre. Double entendre. What you think, you live. And what you live, you die. You're going to die according to your life, what you gave energy to. So if you spent your entire life like, this is all I have, there is nothing after this, I'm going to spend the rest of forever in hell or heaven. You see? It just doesn't make, so you're going to, it irritates me. So your eternity is based on 100 years? That goes by so quick? Wouldn't it be the other way around? What do I mean the other way around? Wouldn't it be that we are always resurrecting, you can say? Because that's the Eastern thought. When you study the Buddha talks about resurrection. So when we go to the East, they speak of resurrection. They don't speak of a place that you go and you stay. And that's it. You're just there forever, and you're just empty space. The East says you gonna keep doing this shit till you get it right. Oh, you didn't get it right, you coming right back. That's more so the Gnostic perspective. Gnosticism, resurrection. So that's more close to what actually happens until you plant yourself in the halls of Amenti, as spoken before. Once you plant yourself in the halls of Amenti, then you kill the resurrection cycle. This is why I say most people are not going to do that. They are not going to put in the level of work to stop reincarnating. Why? Because if you believe all you have is the physical reality, you're going to want to keep doing this over and over and over and over again. You have no inkling of there is something more or greater, because we're not taught. What idea of heaven or hell are we given according to religion? Like, let's be honest. You have people who thinking like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a place I don't even know where it is, how it operates. What are you going to be doing for eternity based off these 100 years? All right? Because you made some mistakes. We all do. Like, so if no perfect being, so heaven or hell is not even based on perfection, because we all make mistakes. There's no perfection in that case. However, it just seems so fucking limiting. It just seems so limited that eternity is based on 100 years. And that's the way the whole universe is designed. The creator of the whole fucking universe is going to judge you based off 100 years and make your eternal soul suffer. I would think the creator or the architect, the supreme intelligence, is a lot more intelligent than that. It seems very basic. The same person that created the universe, person, place, thing, gives you 100 years to judge your entire soul. Anyway, believe what you like to believe. The truth is getting back to the deaf culture of America. If we break down America, El Mary, what is that? We know Mary to be Sophia, right? Sophia, what deity, what is the masculine correspondence or counterpart to Sophia? I know it's Baphomet, the so-called devil. America, El Mary, Mary, Sophia, Baphomet. The androgynous one, right? half man, half woman, goat head, all this stuff, right? Then we call this place hell. We call earth hell. So let's take heaven and hell, the illusion of heaven and hell, out the picture, and let's just look at reality, the hellish realities that we see. We see hellish things everywhere. It doesn't seem very heavenly. It seems more devilish, right? Well, if the root chakra is here, this is the lowest vibration on the planet. That means we are literally in bed with demons, right? We are literally in bed with demons. So, of course, the ruler of America, why wouldn't it be the devil? Not on a religious level, on a scientific level. So let's not get spooky. What do I mean, though? So, like, what do I mean on the scientific level? What is the symbolism of the devil? What does it mean? Polarity, the adversary, the law of polarity. If it's a God, then it has to be a devil. That's the law of polarity. God didn't just create a opposite. Because, and again, let's just leave gender out of it. God didn't create its opposite because it had to or because it wanted to. It's a law of the universe. So I want to leave you with this thought because I've also been thinking about this whole concept of God. Let's just say God created the universal laws, the 7 universal laws. So let's just say God is the architect and God created the laws. But the only thing that exists is God. God created the law, but the only thing that exists is God and the law. So in order for God to roam in physical matter, God has to descend or play in the game. So God created the game, then descends to play the game. Because what is God if it's just the law? There's nothing going on. So God has to replicate itself and descend itself into a physical vessel and play and engage with the game that was created by itself. So what does this mean? So that means God is the creator of the law and submits to the law at the same time, the creator and the destroyer. The creator and submitter. Now, what do I mean? Because people have the belief that God is not physical. Oh, God cannot be a man. God cannot be a woman. God is a spirit, right? God is intangible. If that's the case, there will be nothing other than God. God has to create, right? And if God's signature is on all of God's creation, God is within all of its creation. There can be no creation that is not godly because it all came from God, because where else is it going to come from? You can't have no ungodly creations because who the fuck else is creating? So even the lowest demonic forms of energy is still godly because who else is creating? The shit ain't spiraling on its own. Something is setting this energy in motion. So the same source that set in motion the light side had to set in motion the dark. So the same energy that gave us a God had to give us a devil. The law of polarity, right? Which is why we have the story of God and devil. That's just science. People take this shit literally. The law of polarity. God would not make any sense without a devil. That's what people don't fucking realize. If there was no devil, if all it was a God with no adversary, it would not even make sense. You have to have that component. That is scientific. There has to be an adversary. There has to be a bad guy. What's a movie without a rival? What's competition without competing against someone? Iron sharpens iron. So why does God replicate itself and descend into its own creation to sharpen its own awareness, to sharpen its own intelligence? So the creator then submits to its own law. I appreciate the $5 donation from Quiet Media, 22. Oh, Quice Media. I apologize. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. Just sharing the game, just sharing it. This is just, I'm constantly thinking about this stuff all the time. But somebody has to break the barriers. Everybody ain't gonna speak on it because they got restrictions. They got secrets. They got to hold secrets. There's certain things they can't do. They got to go through people and all that. So just people are tied into their own karma. It's not till you destroy your karma that you can do what you came here to do. But let's get back to the topic at hand. I don't want to stray too far. I just wanted to give you the comparison of God, devil, heaven, or hell, and how this is more so scientific than religious and somebody making this shit up and we taking it literally. This actually is science, the law of polarity. It has to be this way. You have to have a devil. You have to have the demonic side. So when I speak about devils, when I speak about the dark side, I am not speaking about this stuff as if you're doing something reckless or you're going to operate on the other side because this is just better over here. You integrate with both sides, angelic and demonic. You need both signatures because if you are just positive, negative energy will absorb you because positive energy is the equivalent to electricity. Electricity submits to vibration, which is negative energy. That's why they can care less. And when I say they, the collective consciousness, nobody cares how positive you are. You can be the most positive person on earth because negative energy is more powerful. So you can be super electric, but that magnetism will make you submit every time. Every time that magnetism will make you submit. So nobody cares about that positive energy, which is why you is in abundance. This positive energy is everywhere. Everybody's talking about positive energy. But the real deal doesn't care. That's why it does not matter because they understand science. They understand frequency and vibration. You understand frequency and vibration. I put out as much frequency as I want on positive energy, put that in abundance because what we working with will fold that any day. So they giving you watered down magic. So who gives a fuck, right? That's why it ain't nobody saying nothing slick by revealing anything positive because when you deal with the negative forces, none of that matters. That's why I say you deal with the negative energy as a shield to create the creative force and negative energy. That's how you create your weaponry. You create your shield. You create your armor. Positive energy is a sword, but you need your shield. You need your armor. Because what you gonna do when people sick energy at you? Without no armor, you got your sword. But what a sword gonna do? You need armor, you need a shield. You need both. You need your sword, you need your shield. You need both sides. You need to be able to attack and you need to be able to defend. A shield without a sword, useless. Sword without a shield, useless. Masculine without the feminine, useless. Okay. Last point, the deaf culture of America. See, I didn't even get into the meat of the video. We got interrupted and all that. All right. Okay. Just want to break this down. And if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the Buddha. It's the Buddha right here. I'm just looking at the Buddha, making sure the communication is good. What I really want to say, let's get back to the culture of America, being the deaf culture. Getting back to the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans, who so-called just fucking disappeared, right? They give us this fucked up history about the Aztecs, Mayans, Olmecs, as if they just fucking, no, I don't want to be here no more, let's go. Again, if you trust mainstream sources, then you're going to be lost. How do you get the real deal? You have to talk to the necro spirits. That's why. You want to have real conversations? You got to talk to darker spirits. You got to talk to barons. You got to talk to the Gete. You got to talk to the demons. Why? Because they are not going to, you're like, oh, Demons and devils, they deceive you. They're tricksters. This is what we don't understand about the trickster energy. And I did make a video about the science of the trickster spirit. What people don't understand is they trick you when they know your intentions are frail. You're dealing with older spirits when you're dealing with demons. It's like you're dealing with elders. You don't think they can peep game? You don't think they see right through your mischievous acts? That's what it is. People who get fucked up, it's like, yo, why ain't you being real? It's the same thing. You deal with a person like that in real life. If you don't be real, you're not going to get what you want. It actually could flip on you. Like, yo, you could have just been real. Just tell the truth, right? That's why people don't work, because you have to be disciplined. That's the secret. No one would ever tell you that, but that's the deal. If you are not disciplined, you will get destroyed. The same way in real life. If you deal with certain type of characters, if you are not disciplined, you will get disciplined. It's just rank. You go in the military, you fall out of line, they're going to discipline you. If you in a gang, you fall out of line, you're going to get disciplined. The office, you fall out of line, you're going to get disciplined. It's the same thing with spirits. It's just angels don't really enforce that as much. That's the only difference. They're not really enforcing their rank. You know, they'll let anybody, communicate with them. That's how they are. That's the angelic force. They're more of the air element, right? Demons, however, devils, it's like, don't even enter into this location if you are not going to be honest. That's all it is. And most people don't know nothing about that because we live in a world where everybody's trying to scam and swindle, take advantage, right? So when you deal with spirits and they're not going to let that happen, people try to bring that same bullshit mentality to invisible forces and you get severely disciplined. You will get severely disciplined. That's all it is. That's all it is. When I look back at my struggles working with this dark energy, it all goes back to I had to refine myself. I had to straighten my shit up. I had to gain more intelligence and rank. I had to literally just study the law. Me trying to come in and do whatever I want to do, like you ain't dealing with a room full of elders who's going to put you on your ass, then that's why we run into these problems. We got people with these super big egos just coming in trying to dominate. The angels let you dominate. People who are egotistical, they're connected with angels. I guarantee you, nobody's gonna tell you that. Most egotistical motherfuckers is connected with angels, angelic, archangels, all that shit. Big ass heads. Why? Because they let you dominate. That's their nature. Their positive energy. They're not gonna try to overpower you. They're not doing that. So you connected with this intelligence, this range. So it's like you're able to do whatever. They're not stopping you. They're not holding you back. They're not showing you restriction. Demons, however, you have to do things in a certain way. So every time I come and speak publicly, I have to speak in a certain way. I don't get to say whatever I want. Like, I have to be real choosy. As you see, this is a part 2. Part 1, the live stream got interrupted because I'm like, as soon as I start veering outside the bounds, they're going to shut this shit down. So it's like, I got to speak in code in a way. But that's why the more you know about the foundation, I can speak in code and you can still follow me. So I should be able to say, let's go to the world of Alazuf. You know what I'm talking about. Like, oh, I'm gonna catch you at the noon hour. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't know it, because it's deeper. But if eventually I'm gonna start talking fully cryptic. Why? Because that enhances our intelligence. Once you know the foundation, once you know all the codes, all you need is you need to exchange it. Like, you just speaking it to the point it becomes your second nature. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be second nature. Your magical language should be second nature. Let's go back to the source, the death culture. Because I was speaking about the Olmecs, the Mayans, the Aztecs, and how just the way that they present their history is just so crazy. It's like, what the fuck was really going on here? If we're trying to find out about our history from the other side, then you're just not going to find anything. Why? Because I've traveled cross country. on the lands. I'm not talking about catch a flight from LA to New York. I'm talking about you actually traveling. I've seen mountains and faces coming out of the mountains and communicating with me. I could not deny this shit. I could not deny it. It's like you're sitting, just driving through country. It's mountains. They have nothing on it. It's just clear mountains. But it's like you feel the presence of beings. It's like, yo, what's going on here? You start feeling real. When you're awake, they can communicate with you. But most people ain't really putting in that type of work once again. I could see the faces coming out of the mountains. I'm like, oh, faces used to be here. All this clear shit, they cleared it out. Colonization, it ain't it. But it was faces all in these mountains. But when you go in those lands, you know that they communicate with you. You know the history. I can walk on sacred land and I know exactly what happened because they communicate when you acknowledge them. You acknowledge them, why wouldn't they communicate? When these are your people anyway. Oh, see, we don't even feel like we're connected to these people. We feel like these are foreigners. If you feel like you're from somewhere else and you don't have nothing to do, then again, we deny ourselves of our own intelligence. That's why we get caught slipping out here and are being destroyed. The only protection you're going to have is through invisible forces. It's not going to be through a gun. It's not going to be your language. It's going to be intelligence and invisible forces moving forward in this century. This whole thing with this virus, whatever they call this virus, is going to get bigger. If you were not strong here, you may just catch it. Mental first. All disease start in the mental plane. If you have a certain level of thinking, if you think with frequency versus vibration, you're going to pick up on that. When you alter your thinking from frequency to vibration, then you can destroy anything that you are approached with. So, the lands, the ancestors, they communicate. They will tell the story, their story, your story, if you're willing to listen. I wasn't even expecting some shit like that. I'm just going from Los Angeles to New York. Hop on a bus, regular shit. But I would never forget that experience. It's like, there is no way. I was not expecting. I remember traveling through the South, because I've hopped on like the Greyhound and all that. I've been just all over the place. It's certain places where you know the difference. It's frequency going on around here. It's vibration. There's certain places where you have to force yourself to stay up. It's certain areas in the South that it's just been so much death occurring in these areas that it ripped the death currency open. I talked about the death currency yesterday, right? The veils between life and death are open in certain areas of the South because we know what the fuck was going on. But let's go beyond slavery. Let's go beyond that. We're talking about the wars before Christopher Columbus. There has been so much death on these lands that the religion became necromancy. We would never be taught this. This is where shamanism comes from. The natives were shamans, right? What are they doing? Where do you go when you shamanize? You go to the land of the dead. Shamans travel the land of the dead, right? Well, maybe you didn't know. Well, now you know. They travel through the land of the dead, right? The equivalent to the Scorpio frequency, the 8th house, the house of hidden treasures. So when they are traveling through the land of the dead, who are they communicating with? The spirits that are always here. See, this is a thing. If life stops when you die, then that's it. But if life continues, that means the spirits always have a signature or a mark you can access. What do I mean? My experience at Devil's Gate, I'm just thinking about a personal experience. I don't want to just tell you an example. Let me tell you a personal experience. When I went to Devil's Gate Dam, which is in California, Aleister Crowley said this was one of the 7 portals or gateways to hell. So when I read that, because prior I had been in Los Angeles years before knowing anything about that. Of course, no one's going to be speaking about this stuff. I had to find it on my own. All right. So I had already moved out of Los Angeles when I found out about this. Just giving you a timeline. And I'm going to connect this to the deaf culture because this is the communications. I'm going to tell you about the communications I had at so-called one of the 7 portals of hell, right? All right. So I had already moved out the city, so I had to come back and explore. For those who've been around for a while, you may remember I made a video called The Conversations with Ishu. I had a conversation with the devil, right? But for those who wasn't around for that, basically, I went there. It was like midnight. I went there at midnight. I'll just tell you what I did. This is, let me give you an example of some real work. Okay, let me give you an example, right? Because when I say real work or certain people are not going to be courageous enough to do certain type of work, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example of what people are not doing, right? I don't give a fuck how positive they are. This is what they're not doing. They're not going into the darkness. So let me tell you what they're not doing so that you can understand what is required. If you want to go beyond reincarnation, this is what's required. You have to gather enough dark energy. You have to be able to contain this shit. Anyway, so went there midnight. So I incantation, right? Chant incantation. I'm there by myself, of course. Ain't nobody else going to be there, right? No one else has the courage to be there at midnight. It's just not happening. So I'm like, I got this. I'm casually there. It is a unmistakable feeling that you are in a place that you should not be. You have that feeling like, maybe I shouldn't be here. You see little black clouds, and it's like, this is clearly. I had to see for myself. I want to see for myself. Fuck what this article says that I read. Let me go to this place myself and let me have my own experience. So let me convey what happened when I went. Basically, you have to make an offering, right? You have to make an offering. What do I mean? I'm not talking about pulling out apples and oranges and no shit like that. I'm talking about some shit that's what they say you have to sell your soul, right? But again, let me tell you what that means. Meaning you have to give a part of yourself that you cannot get back. When you work with darker forces, you have to give up something. Now, it ain't about like money or materials. You have to give up a part of yourself that you cannot retrieve. So whenever you are working with dark energies, for example, I'll give you my experience. When you go to Devil's Gate or any portal of hell, if you are even courageous, whatever, right? Let me just speak about me. When I went, when you enter into this energy, you feel like spirits are feeding on you. They're feeding on you. Who the fuck is that? They instantly, you feel like, oh, they having a ball. Like, oh, you want to dance with us? They trickster spirits, right? Okay. This is where courage comes in. This is when you have to say, okay, yeah, let's dance. Let's dance, right? You become receptive. So I began to become receptive. So I wanted to have an indication. I'm like, indicate to me that you're here, this intelligence, right? Let me know that you're here. Fucking black, some shit, the ectoplasm was altered. I saw, it was, you can clearly see some shit. I'm like, okay, there you are. Now, for most people, they would be frightened at this point. So imagine being in like a grave site and it's just spooky. It's like being in the graveyard at 12. It's just not going to happen, right? So, of course, you're going to feel very spiritual. I'll just say you're going to feel very spiritual. So I got the indication that the intelligence was alive. Or like, okay, I'm communicating with these energies. This is real, right? So I asked, I'm like, all right, well, what happened there? Because based on the stories that I read, based on the stories on Google, they speak about JPL. I'm just going to abbreviate these names. Again, when I say certain names, this shit go crazy. JPL, right? JPL, Queen of Babylon. I'm just giving codex. It's just codes. If you know, you know. If you don't, let's just move on. The 1940s. Type in Devil's Gate Dam, 1940s, right? What was going on? Kids is disappearing, right? Kids is disappearing. Motherfucker, it's crazy. It's like, yo, it's a very spooky place, and it was already known to be that way, especially in the 40s, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that connects you to Aleister Crowley, JPL, all these people, okay. But this is the 40s. The dam was built in the 20s. And we know that this energy, the natives there said that this was a place of bad luck. So the natives of the land said that they didn't even go around there because it was bad luck. This is a secret, because this is what if you research this stuff, this is what you're going to find. Like, the natives had a certain perspective of these types of lands. So what was revealed to me was these were not the originators of these lands. So the so-called natives, like the Native Americans, or what we call Indians, the Indians are not the builders. The Indians did not build the Americas. The Indians inherited the Americas, right? So the Indians were not the ones building the ziggurats and the pyramids in South America and all that. The Indians wasn't doing all that. That was already here, based on the Olmecs, right? So the natives inherited the land. So if the natives say this is a place of bad luck, and they didn't do it, who the fuck did? See, this is the type of stuff your third eye start unlocking shit for you. So you read an article that says the natives said that this place was bad luck. So if you're the natives, why is it bad luck? Is this not your land? Why the fuck are you calling your own land bad luck? Right? So obviously they're speaking about an older culture. So if the natives were afraid of these lands, that means someone came before them and put that knowledge or put that game into motion. Who were those motherfuckers that made this place bad luck? That's what I asked. Who are these motherfuckers, right? Then it was revealed to me. The builders of this continent built this continent with dark energy because this is the lowest vibration, as I've been saying. So you have to use dark matter and dark energy. This is why it's called the American dream. The American working with dark matter and dark energy. American, as we know, El, Mary, Sophia, Baphomet. The Baphomet working with positive and negative energy. Is that not the fucking symbolism that we see on the fucking Baphomet? Is that not this fucking symbolism? Does America not describe the fucking symbolism? Well, okay. So if this is the case, no, so this is actually not a bad place at all. This is just, as I described before, you have to come with a certain level of discipline. You can't just come in there just doing whatever, because, they have access. Let me just say it this way. Demons have access to your subconscious and your unconscious mind if you open up to them, right? If you forge pacts with them, you can open up your subconscious and unconscious to them. That's how they can communicate intelligence to you, through your subconscious, through your unconscious. So you open up these routes. And the same thing happened if you work with angels, right? It just depends on what you coming from the left or you coming from the right, or you're utilizing both. So if you are not honest, for example, you may not ask an angel to get you some sex, right? But you should probably ask a demon to do it. Because if that's what you really want, like you got people who like, oh, I just need a one night stand right now. You have people who have those desires, right? Then you have people who I want a life partner, I want a marriage partner, I want something more long term, right? So according to what you already feel in your heart, you can kind of already tell what energy you need to work with. It's kind of plain and clear. So if you choose to work with the darker side, then you have to act accordingly. You have to act accordingly. It's like a person, oh, I'm going to do a ritual to a demon for some money or some gold in this case. They want to receive something and didn't put in no work. See, again, let me save you a lot of hardship before you start fucking yourself up. Don't ask for nothing you didn't earn. For one. If you submit, on the other hand, to the teachings, how do I do this myself? Teach me the science of how you do it. I don't want shit from you. Keep your fucking gold. Teach me the science so I can build my own different. Oh, they start looking different now. Oh, that's what you want, nigga? All right. You know, they're going to talk real aggressive, all right? It's different. It's a respect, right? It's like, oh, okay. All right, you know, they're like, all right, that's what you want? All right. It's different. It's different. Versus, oh, demons, this is where I unleash my dark side. Like, nah, this is where you purify yourself. What do you mean? How is asking for sex purifying? Because you are honest. If you can honestly ask for something you desire and know that that's who you are, not what you need for the moment. This is a desire within yourself. So let me change that into a lifestyle. So you have people who prefer a one partner lifestyle, then you have people who prefer many partners. That's based on their genetics, right? Their ideology, right? So obviously, if you're dealing with alternative realities, you should deal with demons. So if you're into things that are not mainstream, that are not accepted, then of course, who are you going to go to? But people come with their hands out, and that's where you get destroyed. Do not come asking for anything tangible. Don't ask for anything tangible. Only seek intelligence and build from the nothingness, which is very hard to do. It's not easy. But is it worth it? Yes, because you actually have something that you can hold and pass on versus they just gave you something you asked for, and now when you need something else, you got to constantly ask them. You see how that creates a very dangerous cycle. If you're just asking for shit, you get it, and then you need something else and you ask for it. You know, that's how you get in debt. Spiritual currency is a currency. You want to get in debt? Keep asking instead of learning how to cook up yourself, and then you can give yourself whatever life you want to give yourself because you know how to whip it up yourself. You know how to cook your own product instead of asking for a finished product. That's the difference. The devils, the demons are the builders. So when you ask, how do I build? Instead of how do I get something that's already refined? Then you will have a lot more swell time with these darker forces because they're not going to give you any energy that's going to make you look at them crazy when you are mature enough to be honest about your desires. So you wouldn't be asking for sex. you will be asking for the art of seduction. You see, it just take you to up your intelligence. That's all it is. Demons, you have to up your intelligence. Oh, I need a piece of ass tonight. Versus, how do I master the art of seduction? Because that actually goes beyond sex. You can actually utilize that in life. The whole entire life, you can use that. But the person that is impulsive just wants the sex for the night. The person that has patience will master the science and benefit from it for the whole life, right? So you decide what path you want to take. Lastly, America, the death culture. The culture of the demons, the culture of the devils, the culture of the Baphomet, the lowest vibration on the planet, which is why we're ruled by capitalism. Fuck the rulers. Understand the frequency, understand the vibration. That's what influences the rulers. You want to be a ruler, you have to submit to the vibration. You will not be a ruler in adversity to the laws of the land. What do I mean? I'm not talking about the physical law. I'm talking about the spiritual law. You cannot be in violation of spiritual law, then occupy some type of position of power on the lands. Why? If we think about politics, if we think about the lawmakers in ninth house, politics 10th house, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Jupiter, Saturn, however you want to put it. Sagittarius is more angelic, Capricorn is more demonic, right? Sagittarius, Capricorn, 9th house, 10th house, right? Politics, yeah. Politics, politicians, teachers, lawmakers, judges. That's all Jupiter, right? Remember, Jupiter and Saturn are the manifestor planets. That's why I'm bringing them up. What do I mean by Jupiter and Saturn as a manifestor planets? Now we're going into astrology just very quickly. Anything you receive as a gift or through hard labor, that's Saturn or Jupiter. Anything we receive is coming from our creative energy or our labor. That's it. Anything you receive physically is because you work for it or you work creative for it. You use creative force or you use that hard working force. Either way, that's the only two ways to manifest physically. Either manifest through your creativity or through your labor, or a combination of them both, which will be the point. The root chakra and the sex chakra. Let's get back on topic. The final point I want to make here is just the energy of death. Now that we understand the ancients, how did they think? This is the last point. How did they think about death? Well, according to the ancients, it was an honor to be a sacrifice. The blood sacrifice. This gets into blood sacrifice. This whole shit, but people connected with conspiracies and some crazy shit. This is the laws of the land. This predates whatever the fuck we see now. They're just in accordance to the laws. Little do we know. That's why they're winning, because they're actually in accordance to the laws of the land. Versus we're fucking afraid of this shit, right? They do not do that. Anyway, it's very frustrating. Why? Because I see it all. Let me explain further. It was an honor to be a blood sacrifice. Us in our natural mind, oh, I'm going to be the blood sacrifice? That means I get to operate on the other side. I get to essentially go directly to heaven. I don't have to go through this trial. It's a quickening. I get to quickly go to heaven. I don't have to suffer through this bullshit. You literally had competitions. People will fight each other to literally almost to death. Just to die. Imagine that. A fight to nearly the death just to choose a winner who gets to be the sacrifice. Why? Because the sacrifice goes straight to heaven, right? There are certain situations in religion where if you die in certain situations, you go straight to heaven, right? In Islam, it's one of the stipulations is if you die, when you take your pilgrimage to Mecca, if you die in Mecca, you go straight to heaven. It's It's or you know, you like if you die in the cause of Allah, if you're a Muslim, if you die in Allah's cause, so you go straight to heaven, right? And of course, you know, every way of life has their stipulations. So in our case, the natives, the originators, the builders, it was an honor to be the blood sacrifice. Now we look at it in such a negative way because we don't understand what we were already doing. So when we see it practiced by others and we're just thrown aback by it, it's because we don't understand that we actually created that shit. Now they're just doing it their own way. They're doing some crazy shit with it. I'm not agreeing with it because it's weird. But the way it's supposed to be done is not being done. But they're basically trying to mimic or duplicate the culture and do it themselves. And the reason it works for them because it's actually based in science. And they just put their own symbolism on top of it. But it's based in science. Because they at least know that much. Anybody in power, anybody who is a ruler, they have a basis in science. They know what science is. They know when something is scientifically based versus something that's just based on fantasy. So death was an honor. So when we look at this death culture of drugs, let's just say, you know, death is honored, drugs is honored. In the music, it's all this funerary rap, all this death rap. Then people were like, oh, you're going to manifest this into existence, right? You got these, they don't understand that. Let's use Tupac as an example because that's the example they always use. Oh, Tupac always spoke about death. He spoke death. He wished this into existence. I'll end it here, right? This will be the last point because this is the perfect example. This will bring it home. No one ever thought or came to the realization that that's the fucking point. What do I mean? If you understand what I just said, it was an honor to be the sacrifice. It was an honor. So you look at Tupac like, yo, if you know that, it would be an honor to go out like that. Now, this would be stupid or crazy to all of us to fucking you scared to death. If you scared, you're like, oh. But even Tupac said, when you pick a time to go, when you choose your death, that's what a man is, right? You choose the time to go. It's all in the music, right? It's all in the music. Pac was connected with the original culture. That's why he's loved all around the planet. That's the difference. They were stomping on his music out in the streets. He had to endure that. They're literally stomping on his music. A man who was born in jail, his mother had to defend herself in court. They're stomping on his music, and all he's doing is telling his story of reality. Now, let's take it a step further. What do I mean? Because then people say Pac went backwards when he started gang banging, right? He got caught up in circles he couldn't get out of. What people don't think about is Tupac had died in prison. Not died like he was killed. So no, I'm not saying that. Let me make this clear. The consciousness of what we known Tupac to be prior to that. Basically, I say it this way. After he was shot in the studio, 1994, because he went to jail, I believe, shortly after he was shot. He may have been shot in like November or something. Again, I don't want to get the dates. He was shot, then he had to do some jail time for 8 months. He did 8 months, okay? If you listen to his later interviews, like his last interviews, he expresses this, you know, in detail. So I'm just really quickly going over this to make this final point. Because it's a lot, and I don't want to rush through it, but I don't want to just stay here too long either. Who we know as Tupac died in prison, which gave birth to what we know to be Machiavelli. The death of Tupac, the birth of Machiavelli. That's why he started calling himself Machiavelli after he came out of prison. He was no longer Tupac, he was Machiavelli. And that was reflected through his music. If you listen to All Eyes on Me, that's Tupac. Well, no. Me Against the World, the album that came out while he was in jail, 1995. Me Against the World, that's Tupac. All Eyes on Me, Death Row, that's Machiavelli. Even though Tupac is on the album cover, because the Machiavelli album came out after he died, but he was calling himself Machiavelli in the album. He did not use that term prior to the All Eyes on Me album, right? And that's said to be the classic, right? Because he was no longer Tupac. He became Machiavelli. Tupac, you can say, was sacrificed in order to give life to Machiavelli. And this is what I mean by darker spirits. You can say a deal with the devil was struck, right? And again, I'm not saying any of this in a negative way. This is science, right? He understood that he had to transform. He could not come out the same way he went in. So he decided to make a change while he was there. And the change that he made gave birth to what we know to be Machiavelli, which most people did not know. The public was not really introduced to Machiavelli because he died maybe less than a year after he was released from prison. He wasn't around that long to really get people aware of Machiavelli, because the first Machiavelli album came out, he was already gone. So the introduction to Machiavelli, the real introduction to Machiavelli, he was already gone. So by the time the world was introduced to Machiavelli, he had already departed. So the world did not get to see the manifestation of Machiavelli only through those two albums, so All Eyes on Me and the 7 Day Theory album. Those was only the two. And of course, actually, because Tupac is known to have a lot of work, he recorded so much music. That's not Tupac. That was Machiavelli, because most of that was recorded after he was released from prison. That was not older music. So the Tupac we know that released all the 10, 12 albums, all those recordings, hundreds of recordings, that was not Tupac. That was Machiavelli, the militant general. That's when he became the general, when he integrated with the West Coast. So that's why I want to bring him up, because he came from the East, then integrated with the West. That's why I want to make this clear. Because people say, well, that was where he went wrong. On the opposite side of that, he had to integrate with that culture, the Western culture. What do I mean? Take away the gang banging, because it's a culture older than that. You can say the gangs just represent a older culture. It is a blanket to a older culture that no longer exists. You just see the after effects of a ancient culture. You just see the emanations. It's just little speckles of what was ancient, right? This is ancient culture. If it was an honor to die, if it was an honor to be the sacrifice, then the only thing you're waiting for is the time of death, which is what Tupac was saying. I plan to die. I'm just waiting for it to happen. I'm ready, because I know what I'm doing. I know what this is. I have to go out like this. I'm not going to grow old and people remember me like they remember everybody else. I had to go out with a bang, because you understand the law. I need to be the spiritual messenger. I need to transform. I need to be remembered in perfection. People think RIP means rest in peace. It means rest in perfection. It comes from Egypt. Rest in perfection. So when you see the sarcophagus, you see the person in their perfected state. You see their whole story on their sarcophagus, them in their perfection, layers and layers and layers. So when we think of Tupac, we don't think of him as an old man, as an elder. We think of him in perfection, which was the point. Every time he comes up, you think of him as a youthful soul. No one's thinking about him as he would be had he still be alive in 40s and 50s, right? We still think of him that youthful, energetic, dynamic soul, and we will always remember him that way, which was the point. This was the essence of Machiavelli. This is why he had to transform. He only had a year left to live, and he went out with a bang, right? That's the energy of Machiavelli. That's the energy of dark magic, because you're literally in hell when you go to jail. There's no worse place to be than there. So when you come out of that and be able to do something that people have still not been able to accomplish, it's been over 20 years, then you know it's beyond the physical. It is a spiritual device. Machiavelli, Tupac was a spiritual device to the world. You can say an ancient soul who had ancient knowledge, who understood ancient knowledge, and who was not afraid to live it out to the T. That's why we honor him, because he was not afraid to live out the ancient culture that we have long forgotten. It was a reminder of who we really are. The most courageous, the most dynamic, the most dominant. That's why he had to transition to the West, to be that shining serpent. His middle name is Immoral. He had to be the shining serpent that was in his destination, that was in his path, to be the shining serpent, to embody the culture of death, hence death row. Right? Somebody put that in the comments, death row. It is a reminder of the ancient culture. Regardless of the emanations that still emanate, through the negativity. But beneath all of that, the original culture will remain. And that's why his symbolism will never die, because it is a symbol of the ancient original culture. And it will always be that. Anybody who has the courage to live the original culture, the original American culture, will be exalted. He's just the only one in modern times, or we're just limited to hip hop. He was the greatest to live out the original culture. And there would be no one else who do it on a greater level. And that was the mission, to remind you of what you really are and what you can be. So, we in here. I'll take that. We'll be checking out. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully dark negative energy should give you inspiration, should give you indication that there are more mysteries to be discovered. That you look at death differently now. You look at death as an honor. Don't be afraid to be honored. Don't be afraid to descend to the halls of Amenti, because that is our destination, the inferno planes. So hopefully I explained this in a logical, practical way so that the spookism and the craziness can be put to rest in the year 2020. High science, we out. Peace.